we are back and we are going to do the shock build. Down here in Florida, it was recommended to me to go ahead and buy the RTR shock kit. These are the RTR shocks, and the part numbers are going to be ETRO45 and ETRO44. I always use Vision Racing Products Pistons in all of my cars. It makes a night and day difference for me. Typically I would run the 20 hole, however for this shock kit it is not available yet. Okay, so these are actually both the VRP 6 hole 1.3 pistons. Okay, so the valves that we're using are going to be the reds in the front and the blacks in the back. That is the typical valve, and I'll explain the valves here in a second, but first I need to get one of these shocks apart. I'm only going to do one of these, and then you'll just basically take that and multiply it times the rest of them. I'm going to go ahead and pull these all the way apart. Also, with my VRP shocks, I do use the shock seal that VRP provides. So we're going to go ahead and hit all the rings up with that. This will come with a little stick, and then just kind of make sure you stir it up. And normally what I do is put it on my finger, make sure I slather the O-ring in it. O-ring's gonna go in. So you've got O-ring, shim, O-ring. That one didn't get enough on it. Everything's gonna make noise because I'm recording. And then you've got your last shim that goes in here. Do not tighten this all the way down. In fact, leave it quite loose because you need to put this through. You can also rub some of that sealant onto your shaft to lubricate it. Okay. What we are going to do is open up our kit from VRP. Hey, look at that, we got a VRP sticker, yay. If you need the instructions, it's in here. I don't. I've built plenty of these pistons. Just make sure that we can see what we're doing here. Where are my tweezers? Okay, so you will see on the piston itself, this is the side that you want facing up. So the other side is going to be flat. This is the side you want facing up. So on your shock shaft, you are going to put, so they do give you extra hardware in here. Good, 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 good. I'm going to put one washer on. You will then put your piston on. And then these little green flaps are the actual valves that open up these extra holes on the stroke return. So in here you'll see there's a little spot for that groove to go. And so basically you just kind of push that on. It's hard for me to see where this camera is. And you just want to make sure that you're locked into that groove. So that one did not get locked in. And that's something you need to be very mindful of. Okay, so now they're both on. They're both nice and flat. And this is where you're going to put the different varying how firm the return is. So black is going to be the fastest return stroke or least amount of resistance on the return stroke. The blue is going to be the most firm resistance on the return stroke. So basically how these work is your piston goes up during its upstroke and those valves are shut down because, so what do we got, a rear here? We need the blacks on the rear. So on the initial upstroke, those valves will be shut because they will be covered on the way up, and on the way back down, the oil is going to pressurize those flaps, and those flaps are going to open up and allow a faster return or an easier return stroke. And that's what these bypass valves actually do. So you can imagine the more that valve is covered up, hence why these are longer, the more resistance it's going to create on the return stroke. So if you want a faster return stroke, you would go with the black. If you want a much slower return stroke, you would go with the blue. And they've given us 4 different tuning options here. So some people will put Loctite on here. However, I'm not going to do it. So there's the shock build. We are going to fill this bad boy up with oil. I'm going 42.5 all the way around. A good starting point after you change over the pistons to the VRP ones. A good starting point is going to be 550 in the rear, 500 in the front. Then you can adjust from there. And again, we run the blacks in the rear, the reds in the front. So I'm going to get this one shock filled up and hopefully properly bled. It's been a long time since I've done anything but an emulsion shock. So going to be interesting here. Well, as interesting as filling a shock can be. So I'm going to give this a couple up and downs, and then I'm going to tighten this. I would just say snug. I wouldn't go further than snug. The tighter that you make this, the tighter it's going to be on the shock shaft. And I have had to have it. I have had it in the past where I've had to mill down the shims that go in here, in order to get a good seal around the bottom of the shock body. So again, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll go back through it after the shakedown and the break-in. Okay, we're going to fill that up, and we're going to go through a few very slow strokes and try to get all of that air out of there. We'll let that sit for a few seconds. Okay, so basically what we want to do is take this guy, set him down in there, make sure your shock is all the way down. Nope. I'm wrong here. I'm going to go about halfway up. Then we want to put this guy on and wipe off the excess. You're going to get some access. Okay. We are going to put our shock top down. And we're going to put it down not all the way. We're going to go till it gets snug, which is going to be pretty far down here. Okay. And then we're going to back it off a little bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to push the stroke up until we start seeing the air come out. Okay, and then we're going to tighten it back down. And I got a feeling that that's not going to do it. But we'll see. Yeah, we're gonna get a ton of rebound out of this. Ton of rebound. So this is a big part of why most people have gone to emulsion style shocks, is they're just so much easier to bleed, especially when you're in a hurry. So again, we're gonna go like this. We're gonna see what we can get away with here. We're gonna let this naturally come out. Open up that bleed valve, which is right here. We're gonna slowly push back in. And we can see air is coming out. We're just gonna wanna go real slow. You don't wanna go fast here. I'm gonna hold that with the pinky and then tighten this back down. Okay, we're already in a better place as far as zero rebound goes. Some people like a little rebound, some people don't. I'm someone who kind of firmly believes that it's very difficult to get a zero rebound shock, so is it really worth it? Plus, it's 72 degrees in here, and by the time I get out on a 100-degree track, I'm gonna have to re-bleed these anyways once I get up to 10. Again, this is why emulsion shocks are so much easier. So we're about half the rebound that we were before. We're gonna do this one more time, and then I'm gonna call it good. Keep this at an angle. We still have air coming out for sure. And I've got a feeling that's probably pretty close to as good as we're gonna get this one. Which we're still gonna have a baby amount of rebound, but it should be decent. So let's see what we ended up with on the opposite side. So we're good on the opposite side. And we still are gonna have rebound. I have a feeling that what's happening here is we're retaining air in here when we loosen this up. So I'm okay with this much rebound, especially since it's super, super slow. Again, this is why I don't mess with anything other than emulsion shocks. It's just so much easier and so much quicker. Okay, then we will basically put the shock back together. And you will adjust once you get it on the kit. That is it.